The mist clung to the ancient pine trees like whispered secrets, silver threads weaving through branches that had stood for centuries. In the heart of the Blackwood Forest, where moonlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, a young woman named Lyra pressed her back against the rough bark of an oak tree. Her breath came in small visible puffs in the cool night air. She shouldn't have been there. The villagers of Millhaven had warned her countless times about venturing into the deep woods after sunset. Tales of wolves the size of horses, of glowing eyes that watched from the shadows of people who disappeared and were never seen again. But Lyra had always been drawn to the mysterious, to the unknown paths that others feared to walk. Her grandmother's pendant, a silver crescent moon, caught what little light filtered through the leaves. It had been passed down through generations of women in her family, each carrying their own story of courage and stubbornness. Tonight it felt warm against her chest, almost pulsing with its own rhythm. The sound that had made her hide came again. Footsteps, but not quite human. Too quiet, too measured. Then came the soft padding of paws on forest floor, and Lyra's heart began to race. Through the gaps between the trees she could see movement, shapes that seemed too large to be ordinary wolves. "I know you're there," a voice said, deep and resonant in the stillness. "Your scent carries on the wind." Lyra pressed herself harder against the tree, but she knew it was useless. Whatever was out there had already found her. Slowly, she stepped into a small clearing where moonbeams created pools of silver light on the mossy ground. Before her stood a man, but calling him simply a man felt inadequate. He was tall, with dark hair that fell in waves around his shoulders. His clothing looked like it belonged to another time, leather and furs that spoke of a life lived close to the wild. But it was his eyes that held her attention, amber like honey held to candlelight, with a depth that seemed to see straight through to her soul. Behind him, 3 wolves emerged from the shadows. They were indeed the size of horses, their coats ranging from silver gray to deep black. The largest, with fur as dark as a moonless night, positioned itself directly behind the man. Its eyes glowed with an intelligence that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You are far from the village," the man said, his voice carrying an accent she couldn't place. "Far from safety." Lyra found her voice, though it came out smaller than she intended. "I was exploring. I didn't mean to trespass." Something that might have been amusement flickered across his features. Trespass. An interesting word choice. He took a step closer, and she noticed the way he moved, fluid like water, predatory like the wolves that flanked him. "Do you know who I am, little human?" She shook her head, though something deep in her bones whispered recognition. "I am Kieran," he said, and the name seemed to echo in the clearing. "Some call me the Alpha King of these woods, and you, brave little wanderer, have entered my territory." The wolves behind him shifted, their eyes never leaving Lyra. She should have been terrified. Every instinct should have been screaming at her to run. Instead, she found herself taking a step forward. "Your territory," she repeated. "And what does that mean for me?" Kieran's expression changed, becoming something more complex. Warning mixed with longing, danger intertwined with desire. "It means," he said carefully, "that you are no longer safe in the way you understand safety. The forest has claimed you now, and He paused, running a hand through his dark hair. "I cannot control myself around you." The words hung in the air between them like a challenge and a confession all at once. "I don't understand," Lyra said, though part of her did. Part of her recognized the pull she felt toward this strange, dangerous man and his wild companions. Kieran began to circle her slowly, and she turned to keep him in sight. "There are old laws in these woods," he explained. "Ancient pacts between the human settlements and my kind. We keep to the deep forest, you keep to your villages. But sometimes..." He stopped directly in front of her. "Sometimes a human ventures too deep. Sometimes they carry a scent that calls to us, that awakens things better left sleeping." "What kind of scent?" Lyra asked, though her hand moved unconsciously to her grandmother's pendant, his amber eyes fixed on the movement. "Moon blessed," he said softly. "That pendant you wear, it's not just silver, is it? It carries the old magic, the kind that bridges our worlds." Lyra's grandmother had always been different. The village healer, the woman others came to for remedies that worked better than they should have. She had died the previous winter, leaving Lyra with more questions than answers and a pendant that sometimes seemed to hum with its own energy. "She never told me," Lyra whispered. "Perhaps she hoped you would never need to know." Kieran's voice was gentle now, understanding. But you're here, and the magic in your blood calls to the magic in mine. Do you know what that means? Before she could answer, the largest wolf, the one with midnight fur, padded forward. It was enormous up close, its shoulder reaching nearly to her waist. Instead of fear, Lyra felt an overwhelming urge to touch its fur, to run her fingers through what looked like liquid shadow. Shadow recognizes you, Kieran said with surprise in his voice. He has never approached a human before. Lyra extended her hand slowly, and Shadow sniffed it before pressing his great head against her palm. His fur was softer than silk, and warmth spread from the contact up her arm and through her entire body. The pendant at her throat grew warmer. This is what I feared, Kieran said, his voice tight with control. This is why you should run, why you should never have come here. Why? Lyra asked, not moving her hand from Shadow's head. The wolf's amber eyes, so similar to Kieran's, gazed at her with what looked remarkably like affection. Because I am not just a man who lives with wolves, Kieran said, his form beginning to shimmer in the moonlight. I am something more, something other, and when I am near you, when I breathe in your scent and see the way my pack accepts you. His voice became strained. I want to claim you as mine. I want to bring you into my world completely, consequences be damned. The air around him began to change, becoming charged with energy that made Lyra's skin tingle. She could see the struggle in his face, the battle between the man and something wilder, more primal. What if I want to be claimed? The words left her mouth before she could stop them, surprising them both. Kieran went very still. You don't know what you're saying, don't I? Lyra stepped closer, her hand still on Shadow's head. The other two wolves had come nearer as well, flanking her like an honor guard. I felt different my whole life, like I was waiting for something, searching for something I couldn't name. When my grandmother died, she whispered something to me. She said, "When the moon calls, answer." The pendant was definitely warm now, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Kieran's amber eyes were changing, becoming brighter, more intense. To accept my claim would mean leaving your human life behind. It would mean becoming part of the pack, part of the wild. There would be no going back. And what would I become? Lyra asked. Something between human and wolf, he said. Stronger, faster, able to communicate with the pack. You would run beneath the moon with us, hunt with us, live by the old laws. But you would still be you, still retain your human heart and mind. The three wolves around her made soft sounds, almost like purring. They were accepting her, welcoming her. She could feel it in the way they moved closer, in the way their eyes watched her with protective warmth. My grandmother left me alone in that village, Lyra said quietly. She was the only one who understood me, who didn't think I was strange for preferring moonlight walks to morning markets, for talking to the birds, for knowing which herbs would heal before anyone taught me. Kieran nodded. The blood of the moon-blessed runs thin in most families now, but in yours it has remained strong. Then this is where I belong, she said with growing certainty, not hiding in a village that never felt like home, but here, with those who understand what I am. Lyra. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. Once I begin the claiming ritual, I won't be able to stop. The wolf in me will take over, and it is possessive, demanding. Are you certain? She looked around at the three wolves who had surrounded her like guardians, at the ancient forest that felt more like home than anywhere she had ever been, at this man whose amber eyes held wildness and wonder in equal measure. I've been certain since the moment I saw you, she said. Kieran closed his eyes for a moment, fighting his internal battle. When he opened them again, they blazed with golden light. Then let the moon witness our bond. He raised his hands to the sky, and somehow, impossibly, the clouds that had been hiding the full moon began to part. Silver light poured down into the clearing, illuminating them all in its ethereal glow. Kieran began to change, his form becoming more fluid, more wild, though he remained essentially human in shape. The ritual was unlike anything Lyra could have imagined. It was primal and beautiful, involving the sharing of breath, the mixing of blood from small cuts on their palms, and words spoken in a language that seemed older than memory. The wolves sang, their voices harmonizing in a way that made the very air vibrate with power. As the ritual concluded, Lyra felt the change beginning in herself. It wasn't painful, but rather like coming alive for the first time. Her senses sharpened until she could hear the heartbeat of every creature in the forest, smell the rain that would come before dawn, see in the darkness as clearly as in daylight. "Welcome to the pack," Kieran said, pulling her into his arms. His voice was rough with emotion and the lingering effects of his transformation. Around them, the three wolves howled their approval, and Lyra found herself joining them, her voice blending with theirs in a song of belonging that echoed through the ancient trees. When the howling faded, Kieran cupped her face in his hands. "I warned you that I couldn't control myself," he said softly, "but I never expected to fall in love." "Love?" Lyra whispered. "From the moment you stepped into my territory," he confirmed. "The claiming ritual only sealed what was already true. You are my mate, my equal, my other half." Shadow nudged them both with his great head, and Lyra laughed, a sound of pure joy that seemed to light up the entire forest. She had found her place, her purpose, her family. The strange, lonely girl from the village was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wilder, and infinitely more free. As dawn approached, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, the pack began to move deeper into the forest, toward a home Lyra had never seen, but somehow knew would be perfect. She walked beside Kieran, her hand in his, while the wolves ranged around them like living shadows. "Do you regret it?" he asked as they walked. Lyra looked up at the lightening sky, then at the man beside her, at the magnificent creatures who were now her family, at the endless forest that stretched before them full of mystery and possibility. "Never," she said, and meant it completely. Behind them, the village of Millhaven was waking up, beginning another ordinary day. But Lyra was no longer part of that ordinary world. She had answered the moon's call, accepted the Alpha King's claim, and found her true self in the process. The transformation was complete, and she had never felt more alive.